April 7, 1998, York Street, London, Ontario. Two gunshots broke the quiet night outside a strip club. When the smoke cleared, two leaders of the Outlaws Motorcycle Club lay dead in the parking lot. Hours later, an explosion ripped through a crowded restaurant, injuring 5 civilians and causing more than $1 million in damage. This wasn't random gang violence. It was business. The Hells Angels were expanding west. The Outlaws controlled the highways. The Bandidos wanted their share. And London, Ontario, quiet, middle-class, and peaceful, sat directly in the center of Canada's most profitable drug corridor. What happened next turned suburban neighborhoods into battlefields. Families found themselves living between rival clubhouses. Children walked to school past crime scenes. Even a family motorcycle show almost turned into a massacre. 3 clubs, 1 city. A war fought in ordinary streets. This is how organized crime came home, what the documentary covers. This documentary examines the Ontario biker war from 1998 to 2002, when London shifted from a calm regional city to one of Canada's most violent front lines in outlaw biker conflict. What began as a struggle for territory between rival motorcycle clubs escalated into bombings, shootings, and public confrontations. Residents lived in fear while police scrambled to contain the violence. We explore key events that defined this era. The April 7th, 1998 York Street shooting that killed 2 Outlaws leaders. The bombing of T.J. Baxter's Tap and Grill, which injured civilians. The 2002 London motorcycle show Standoff, where rival clubs nearly clashed in front of families. The turf battles that brought organized crime into ordinary neighborhoods. This isn't just about biker rivalries, it's about how organized violence affected everyday life. Businesses targeted, families frightened, and communities forced to adapt. Every event is based on verified police reports, court records, and reliable media accounts showing how London became a key front in Canada's biker wars. Setting the scene, why London became a target. To understand why London, Ontario became the center of biker conflict, you must look at its geography and economy. London sits along Highway 401, one of Canada's busiest transportation routes, stretching from Windsor and Detroit through Toronto to Montreal. For years, law enforcement identified this corridor as a major drug trafficking route, especially for methamphetamine and other illegal substances. Controlling London meant controlling a vital link in that pipeline of drugs and money. The Outlaws Motorcycle Club had long held power in London, operating from their clubhouse near the Western Fairgrounds and maintaining influence across southern Ontario. But by the late 1990s, the balance began to shift. The Hells Angels, Canada's largest outlaw biker club, were expanding west from Quebec. They used smaller affiliated support clubs, like the Rockers and the Jackals, to help take over new territory. Their expansion directly challenged the Outlaws' long-standing dominance. Meanwhile, the Rock Machine, rivals of the Hells Angels from Quebec, had also moved into Ontario. In 2000, many Rock Machine members joined the Bandidos, introducing a third major player into the conflict. The result was a volatile mix, the Outlaws defending their turf, the Hells Angels advancing west, and the Bandidos fighting to gain ground. London, once a quiet Canadian city, suddenly became a strategic battleground where these groups clashed for control of money, drugs, and territory. When rivalries turned deadly, the fragile peace in London's biker underworld collapsed on April 7, 1998. That evening, 2 key members of the Outlaws, Jeffrey Labish, acting president of the London chapter, and Jody Hart, were shot and killed outside the Beef Baron, a York Street strip club. This was no random act. It was a direct strike at the Outlaws' leadership and a clear signal that their control was being challenged. Police later arrested 2 associates of the Hells Angels for the murders. The violence continued just days later. During the funerals for Labish and Hart, T.J. Baxter's Tap and Grill, a popular London restaurant, was bombed. The blast injured 5 innocent bystanders and caused over $1 million in damage. The bombing showed how far these organizations were willing to go, using explosives in public spaces and endangering civilians. These events marked a turning point. The Outlaws allegedly placed a $50,000 bounty on those responsible, escalating the violence even further. What had once been quiet intimidation now became open warfare. By 1999, the conflict intensified as the Hells Angels continued recruiting local clubs and expanding their influence. London became a major front line in Ontario's biker war, the motorcycle show that nearly turned deadly. By February 2002, tensions were at their peak. The annual London Motorcycle Show, usually a family-friendly event, nearly became a massacre. The Hells Angels had organized the show for 2 years, but in 2002, rival clubs decided to make their presence known. Intelligence reports later revealed that all sides planned for confrontation. That afternoon, about 120 Outlaws and Bandidos members arrived from across Canada and the U.S. at the same time. Around 110 Hells Angels members and their support club, the Jackals, were already inside the venue. Many bikers wore body armor and carried knives. Police described the atmosphere as a powder keg. Only quick intervention by more than 40 police officers prevented bloodshed. They physically separated the groups and ordered several members to leave. London Police Chief Murray Faulkner later said, "If the police weren't there, we were in for big trouble. I was guessing a multiple shooting or stabbing." After the incident, the Hells Angels were banned from future motorcycle shows in London, and city officials moved to remove the event entirely. The standoff showed just how close biker warfare had come to spilling into public life. Law enforcement response. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, police in Ontario documented numerous biker-related crimes, from arson and weapons charges to assassination attempts and bomb plots. In one major case, officers raided the farm of Wayne Kellestein, uncovering nearly 40 firearms and even a rocket launcher. The discovery revealed the extreme level of weaponry some biker members possessed. Fires, explosions, and violent attacks became recurring tactics. In June 2001, the Outlaws Clubhouse in Woodstock was burned down, with the Hells Angels suspected of involvement. Police infiltration operations beginning in 1999 confirmed what many already knew. These were not isolated acts. They were part of a systematic campaign to dominate territory, control smaller clubs, and expand organized criminal influence across Ontario. By August 2001, police were regularly intercepting weapons and explosives linked to ongoing biker conflicts. In one documented case, an Outlaws member was arrested en route to a Hells Angels clubhouse, carrying body armor, firearms, and a pipe bomb. These seizures confirmed the extent of preparation and weaponry involved in the violence between rival clubs. The human cost of organized crime. Although the biker wars were driven by power, territory, and profit, their impact reached far beyond the organizations involved. Civilians often became victims of violence they had no connection to. The bombing of T.J. Baxter's Tap and Grill remains one of the clearest examples of how these conflicts endangered innocent people. 5 patrons and staff were injured in that explosion. Ordinary individuals who happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Their injuries and trauma underscored the human toll of using explosives in public spaces. Public assassinations, such as the York Street shooting of Outlaws leaders, occurred in open areas, often with bystanders nearby. These acts created deep unease in London and surrounding communities. Local businesses also suffered. Some were damaged. Others faced increased insurance costs or felt pressure to distance themselves from any perceived biker connections. The 2002 motorcycle show incident led to the cancellation of a long-standing community event, affecting vendors and families who had no involvement in organized crime. Residents living near clubhouses experienced heightened police activity and disruption, while others lived with the awareness that their city had become associated with biker violence. Project Retire, the law enforcement response. By 2002, the situation demanded a coordinated law enforcement response. On September 25, 2002, the Ontario Provincial Police launched Project Retire, one of the largest anti-biker operations in Canadian history. More than 500 officers executed simultaneous raids across Ontario, targeting outlaws, motorcycle club properties, homes, and affiliated businesses. The results were immediate and decisive. All 58 full-patch Outlaws members in Ontario were arrested. National President Mario Pare and former President Andrew Teach Simmons were among those charged with offenses, including attempted murder. Police seized 44 firearms, $1.6 million in narcotics, 6 stolen vehicles, and 5 properties tied to the Outlaws. The operation effectively dismantled the Outlaws' leadership structure in Ontario, removing them from the province's organized crime landscape. In the aftermath, the Hells Angels became the dominant outlaw motorcycle organization in Ontario, solidifying the gains made through their late 1990s expansion. For London, Project Retire marked the end of the most violent period in its modern history. The Outlaws, who had been the city's primary outlaw club since the 1970s, were eliminated as a major force. Open confrontations declined sharply, but police warned that the operation had targeted the symptoms, not the root causes, of organized crime. The lucrative markets for drugs, gambling, and other illicit activities remained. Aftermath and continuing challenges. Project Retire disrupted biker activity but did not eliminate organized crime in Ontario. Over the following years, new groups emerged to fill the void left by the Outlaws. By the 2000s, London and nearby regions began to experience new waves of organized crime, this time involving street-level gangs and smaller biker factions rather than full-scale club wars. Smaller towns such as Cornwall and Brockville later saw their own biker-related incidents, though these were less violent than the London conflicts of 1999 to 2002. For police, the Ontario Biker War demonstrated the need for intelligence-driven, coordinated investigations. Traditional reactive policing proved ineffective against networks operating across municipal and provincial boundaries. The success of Project Retire became a model for future operations targeting complex criminal organizations, long-term impact on communities, and law enforcement. The biker wars permanently changed how Ontario communities and law enforcement approached organized crime. The public shootings, bombings, and large-scale confrontations revealed that criminal rivalries could directly threaten civilian safety. Local governments began implementing stricter event regulations, ensuring that gatherings linked to outlaw motorcycle clubs faced closer scrutiny. Business owners became more cautious about associations with biker groups. Police agencies enhanced information sharing systems and developed specialized gang and organized crime units. These units treated motorcycle clubs as sophisticated criminal enterprises rather than informal social groups. The coordinated success of Project Retire influenced policing strategies in other provinces, proving that long-term intelligence and cooperation could dismantle entrenched criminal networks. Lessons about organized crime in Canadian communities. The Ontario Biker War exposed how organized crime conflicts can infiltrate communities that have no direct involvement in criminal activity. The struggle for control over drug routes and illegal markets inevitably spilled into public spaces, affecting businesses, schools, and families. The importance of the Highway 401 corridor highlighted how organized crime groups exploit legitimate infrastructure for illegal trade. The Hells Angels' use of support clubs and affiliates demonstrated their operational sophistication, allowing them to expand while limiting direct legal exposure. Project Retire proved that sustained, coordinated law enforcement efforts could disrupt even the most established criminal organizations. However, it also showed that long-term vigilance is necessary. As long as criminal markets exist, new groups will rise to replace those dismantled. The Ontario Biker War, 1999 to 2002, was ultimately about power, territory, and money, but its costs were paid not only by the clubs involved, but by entire communities. In London, quiet neighborhoods became contested ground. Businesses were damaged and families lived with fear. The shootings on York Street, the bombing of T.J. Baxter's, and the near clash at the motorcycle show made clear that organized crime was not confined to hidden corners. It had entered everyday life. Even after large-scale arrests and police victories, the underlying criminal economies endured, ensuring that future conflicts remained possible. Today, the Ontario Biker War stands as a case study in how organized crime can reach into ordinary communities. The violence was not random. It was the calculated result of competition between powerful, well-organized groups. The lasting lesson for Canada is clear. When organized crime competes for control of illegal markets, no community is truly untouched.